What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the Counting Wisdom podcast. I wanted to talk about how, in certain cases, life is too short to really do certain things that, we may get caught up into. For example, life is too short to stay angry, at least, when you feel as if you can, control yourself. Also, from a different perspective, life is too short to continue in sin. Even though certain things may be enticing to us, certain things, kind of poke at us a little bit, we have to realize that, eventually certain things that are allowed in this world will not continue. And so one of the things that just will not continue is sin. And so life is too short to live a life full of sin when knowing one day, you won't be able to even continue to do that sin, even if you love it so much. Obviously there are some things that are eternal, but at the same time, a lot of things in this world are very temporary. And so, knowing that we have faith in Jesus Christ, we know that we are going to live forever. But at the same time, we have to live forever according to God's will, according to God's purposes. Because one kind of way that I thought about it is, kind of like we say in different movies sometimes, is that, we're in God's home and this is His territory, and we're just coming along the journey with God to live life that He has already been living. And so, we have to live according to God's ways. And, when we realize that, I think that's a little bit helpful because, you don't normally just, if you invite someone over to your house, usually, they would know what is sort of allowed to go on at your house or what is not allowed, For example, when you go to certain friend's house, okay, I'm not going to drink alcohol because this friend doesn't drink alcohol. But then you have another friend who, drinks alcohol. And so you don't have to necessarily wonder, if it's okay for you to drink alcohol, because you're at a friend's house where that is permitted. And so, since we are in God's house, we have to live according to His rules and according to what He allows. And, one thing I do want to say is that I think obviously, it could be frustrating sometimes, just from, kind of a natural perspective where we could be frustrated that we can't do certain things. You may have a girlfriend and, you see another woman that you like, but you already have a girlfriend. And so, you realize, oh, wow, I can't just talk to two people because that is what the Bible would, call immoral. And so I think sometimes as people, people are angry at God because there are certain things that they want to do, but the Bible calls it evil. Now, obviously, there are definitely more serious examples that, would really divide, a whole bunch of people, whether it is evil or not. There are certain things that, certain people don't necessarily feel as if they want to do it. But anyway, I think one thing that we know with God is that he can change us, and that's one thing that, I look forward to as walking with God, is that my desire for certain temptations will become less and less. And I think, at the same time, there's a part of my heart where, sort of I feel like, maybe taking a second glance at, that woman that walks by, but at the same time, or if you're a woman, taking a second glance at, a buff guy that has his shirt off or something. And so, there could be that kind of wrestling but within us where, we want to serve God, but yet, we feel tempted in a certain area. And so I love how God is going to change us, and especially when we surrender and we come to God and say, God, I know this one thing, seems enticing, but, God, please help to change me. Please help to, change my heart and my mind. And so I believe God does that. And so, going back to the whole life is too short type of thing, I think life is too short to be frustrated about certain things that we can't necessarily control, or, certain situations that are somewhat frustrating. I think that, even though a day can feel like, a long day, the whole saying of, man, I had a long day, one day can have a lot of, kind of things packed in it where, it can be a very tiring day sometimes. But, we have to have that, eternal perspective that, the Bible really calls our life on this earth short. But at the same time, the Bible also brings out how God wants us to have a long life on this earth. But, life is too short to, really not live for God and, to let certain circumstances, take over and control us. And I think this is sort of a learned experience when we, try to take that eternal perspective and, we try to, really think about, things in a perspective of eventually, we're going to make it to heaven. Of course, if we have put our faith in Jesus Christ and live for him, we know that God is going to change our circumstance here in this world. And so that's one thing that I think when we take that perspective of life is too short to, not trust in God that, eventually he will take care of these different problems that we may face, different issues, I highly doubt that, throughout all of eternity, for those that make it to heaven, we would be poor, for a person who is poor now. It would be really hard to believe that, throughout all of eternity, that person would stay poor against their will of, wanting to be poor. Obviously there are some people who don't necessarily always have a goal to make, more money than they need. But, one of the things that we know is that because life is so short here, that, maybe certain people, they need, if they live to be 200 or 250, maybe that problem that they're facing would eventually sort of work itself out. But because life is so short, that we don't always get to see, big changes in our life, because, when you think about it, I'm 31, I got probably 30 more years, God willing, before I really get, to a place where I may not necessarily have the energy to do, as much as I would like to do, when you think about, things like starting a business or traveling the world or, the list can go on. I'm just trying to think of stuff really fast, but the whole concept of, going back to the whole life is too short type of thing, some problems, it seems like it could take a while before you really, figure it out. And I think that when we have an eternal perspective, I think things are better in the long run because, one, we are going to be in heaven in this new heavens and a new earth, and a paradise it will be. And so, anyway, I think that's it for today's podcast. Hopefully this was helpful to someone. I just kind of wanted to talk about how, especially, when our emotions get the best of us, having that whole perspective of life is too short to let this, really get you over and upset more than is necessary. Obviously, I will say that, sometimes certain situations do sort of, can, obviously it differs from person to person, but it can really get the best of us where it does make us worry really easily, or, it does make us, frustrated or angry, and so sometimes we don't necessarily have control over, some of the situations we may be facing or thinking about. And so I just want to make that note. But, for at least having a mindset of, thinking, maybe this is one of those situations, asking yourself, hey, maybe this is one of those situations where I shouldn't necessarily get as upset as I could, because, hey, I don't need to, really blow this situation out of proportion. Now, there's other situations that, obviously the Bible says we shouldn't really worry about anything, but there's certain situations where, maybe we do need to, give it a little bit more of attention, especially if, it is sort of a big problem, hey, there's certain things that we might have to do. And so, but also I just wanted to talk about, the whole life is too short, and not just our emotions, but, having a perspective of life is too short to really, not live for God, and, not, be caught up in certain sins that, so easily entangle us. And, I've talked about that before on other podcasts that, it is so easy to, I think for obviously many, many people to get so caught up in sin and, start hating God and rebelling against God because, they don't want the light, they want the darkness. And so life is too short to really, be caught up in sin because, once your life ends, so does the sin. And there's not really a planet that God is going to send us to, to say, hey, this is the planet that you can continue doing the sin that, you want to do. No, it doesn't work like that. And so life is too short to, not to continue in sin. And so, anyway, thanks so much. Hopefully you kind of enjoyed this. And I will talk to you on the next one. See ya.